Welcome to the RugbyBits podcast, and we've got a great episode today. We're going to be looking back at the top 14, looking back at the Super Rugby final, the Currie Cup final, and the Under 20 World Championship that started, and just all the general rugby news that's been going on. My name is Thala. I'm hosting today's podcast, and I'm joined by Shaun. And Shaun and I have agreed with each other that we're going to talk absolute rubbish, basically, for the next 40 to 50 minutes.
It's off season. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Making composite 15s, talking about a junk, just basically, you know what we're doing. This is it's that out of preseason session into the warm up because things are happening. The test world is coming alive. So yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say we're probably starting to transition to preseason now. So now we need to start looking into warming ourselves up. Starting to look at start saying All Blacks instead of Crusaders and Wallabies instead of Waratahs and all that sort of stuff. So we need to just get our senses going. Shaun, the one thing that we were talking about before the pod that is my clear indication that the test season is here is people complaining about the haka.
Well, yeah, you're right in that is just one of those things that happen on a cycle. Generally happens after the first test, but I might be a little bit on their side, and I'm probably going to get absolutely ripped apart for this. But Matt, it was long. Obviously, the best way to describe it to the untrained eye, and I mean I don't know, there's so many different hakas, and it's got so many different meanings, and there's so many different levels to it. But for me, it just looked like a haka mixtape. It was long. There was a little bit of this. There were a few things that I started recognizing. I'm like, hey, I've seen that before, and I've seen this and that and whatever. So it was long. If the under 20s do that in every game for the world champs, they're not going to make a hell of a lot of non-Kiwi friends. I'll tell you that for free. It was a bit much. But
so are people just unhappy that it was long? Was that the issue?
Yeah, it was long. They transitioned into one or two. They even got the Maori All Black with Ash Dixon, that awesome one that they did in the States, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then it was long. That was it. It was long. And the thing is because people recognized a whole bunch of different ones that were brought in, they were like, now you're just kind of transitioning into, it wasn't like a whole brand new one, if you understand what I'm saying. But this really comes from a place of ignorance. I don't know the story behind it or anything, but just from what we're used to and what's happening, it just looked like this is a bit much.
Yeah. And the whole debate is about, okay, what, should you face it? Should you respect it? Can you do something else? And I mean, you are allowed to do something else. The only thing is that New Zealand teams would usually just thrash you if you are disrespectful. But it's up to you if you want to be disrespectful or not, if you consider that disrespect. But I mean, opposition teams can still control what happens post haka and get I know the French teams and English teams would get the tackle bags out and sort of do another warm up, basically to get them warm. Or some teams sort of sing their national anthem or something like that, in a huddle or whatever you want to do. So, I mean, we've been here long enough. I mean, it's okay, especially for the under 20s. This is their first time facing it. So I think the Welsh boys on Saturday and the teams are going to face New Zealand. They're all just so excited to face it for the first time.
And they'll face up to it because you're right. It's the first time for so many,
Yeah, but for the international teams that are used to it, you have so many options of what you need to do. If your union is willing to sponsor it, you can even probably pay small fine if you want to advance on it and all that sort of stuff as well. So, I mean, I'm tired about people being tired and complaining about it as well. But I do understand the context of this one was, because I saw the video as well on social media. I was like, that's a bit long for a usual haka. And like you said, you started being like, oh, okay, that's the Mario one. Oh, no, that's the Chiefs one from a few years back. Oh, wait, that is the original Baby Blacks one. So it was a bit of a a mashup there. So I assume the team, it's a new-ish, I guess, under-20s team. We haven't had it for a while. So they said, okay, we don't have someone from last year that can teach us. We're just going to put everything that we know together.
Possibly.
But yeah, I think, and that then led to a great match and a great comeback for the Baby Blacks as well. But let's start with the seniors and start with, we're going to first start with the Super Rugby final. Then we'll go into the Currie Cup and that sort of stuff. Let's start with the Crusaders winning their 8th Super Rugby title in a row. We do not in this house count that Super Rugby Tasman tournament that the Blues won, because the Blues won it, so it doesn't count. The Crusaders winning 25 points to 20 in Hamilton. So that's their second Super Rugby title on a trot that was away from home. And essentially they won it on a few key things that happened in the game. In terms of just them, the Chiefs basically had that 20 points to 15 lead in the second half. They had that try disallowed for Narawa, I think it was Mackenzie advancing before the lineout was over. Mackenzie tried a 52-meter penalty again. He missed it by not too much, which also could have extended it to 8 points. And the Crusaders, once Sam Cane got a yellow card, they got their rolling maul going, and Cody Taylor scored the winning try, essentially. So a close game, and the Chiefs, I think, did as much as possible to try and win it. But, 3 yellow cards, one should have been red probably. 3 yellow cards, you're not going to win against the Crusaders.
No, and I think the big talking points, there's massive news out of New Zealand, like Ben O'Keefe is saying he's just getting so much abuse from the Chiefs fans, and I was just like, I don't know where he's on what grounds he's getting that abuse on. Like, I don't think he blew badly. I don't even think that yellow card, it's not even his fault, because that was with the law, well, with the way Super Rugby is set up with the laws, it's got that 8 minutes off field for TMO, so it wasn't even his call. So, he could have possibly looked at it and made it a straight red. But why, when maybe you make a rash decision and you give a red, and then everyone jumps down your throat saying, "Listen, why didn't you make it a yellow?" And then everyone else could have decided. So whatever. I really don't think he officiated the game badly. I think the key moments in that game that worked against the Chiefs were of their making, and that was one side, and the other side was just the Crusaders. They just need the door to just crack open and let a little bit of light into that dark room, and they get going. So like the yellow cards, there were 3 yellow cards in the game. The Sam Cane's one, like, I see people chatting about it and saying, he really should have done better. He knows better, blah, blah, blah. But pressure does that. Pressure forces you into making decisions and doing stuff. He went up to get that ball at the ruck, saying like it was out when it wasn't out. But he was like, but it's in the open, and it was behind, it was in between someone's feet. So yeah, that was poor. The other thing was that Mackenzie disallowed, that Mackenzie being offside. That was one of the things. You didn't like see it take the air out of their sails, but it was almost like the Crusaders, because that was a swing moment there, because that try, Chiefs win it, Crusaders heads drop. There was no way back. Chiefs would have done enough to hold on, I feel, from there. But when that changes, that's that little crack in the door where the Crusaders are like, right, guys, there's our wake-up call, another one. Now it's time to start working it. They played well. Thought Lester Fainganuku was relatively quiet, but his role in the game was to bash stuff up, and Chiefs were defending him really well. They defended well. Sean Stevenson is going to cook, and he did cook, but he's going to cook I'm going to say it, he's going to play for the All Blacks. He's going to have like 1.5 games of absolutely setting Test rugby on fire, and then he's going to get dropped because he's in there as an injury replacement. So it's inevitable, like no matter what he does. So yeah, anyway, that being said, it was like, if you're looking at the stats and how everything is, it was pretty much even. If anything, the Chiefs had a little bit more. Like they had a little bit more to their game. The Chiefs, like I always look at the defense, at the tackles, because generally the team that tackles the most, like, is in with a good shot. If so see it so often, especially in Test rugby, you see like a team that's made 200 tackles but they still win the game. You're like, that's so weird. But I mean, the Chiefs made more tackles in that game. They beat more defenders in that game. They and everything else was pretty much even after that. So yeah, it's great when a side can push the Crusaders that far, because the Crusaders are beatable, and the Chiefs just couldn't do it on the day.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can agree with that last point, Sean, because if it's finals time, I don't know who beats the Crusaders right now. And I would love, a 4-team tournament with what I at least consider the best 4 teams in the world, which are the Crusaders, La Rochelle, Toulouse, and Leinster. I'm sure Crusaders would also be added to that. They beat this team, but not this team, like sort of cycle as well. But yeah, I think, Sean, you're completely right about the game. Evenly matched, nothing really that the Chiefs can complain about in terms of the stats. They didn't really do too much, or they didn't do anything that they shouldn't have done. I mean, you have 90% tackle success. The 2 kicks that DMAC missed, I mean, one of them was was over 50%, so you can't really complain about that. Lineouts were a bit shaky. I mean, 4 out of 7, you probably don't want to have that. But yeah, everything else was relatively even. Like turnovers, 1 was even. The penalties were okay. Actually, the penalties were an issue as well. 15 penalties for the Chiefs and 3 yellow cards compared to 8 for the Crusaders, and that's probably the difference, because the Crusaders were able to get territory and possession in that game as well.
And that's a discipline issue, eh?
Yeah.
And pressure. That's discipline and pressure. You can't ping. Sometimes a referee can overextend himself and give too many penalties, and generally they fall on one side. But it wasn't the case in this game. I watched it once. I haven't watched it over. But I didn't get that feeling where I was like, this is not happening for the Chiefs. But it wasn't the case. It was just a discipline side from them. Like maybe the moment was too much. Like in a respectful way, maybe they were just trying too much,
Look, I mean, I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts about the yellow cards. I mean, I think 2 of them were basically pressure yellow cards, like you're trying to defend your line or you're trying to make something happen in the game, and Jacobson and Kane were yellow carded for that. The ALB one, like you said, I think you're perfect in that analysis. Ben O'Keefe, if he's given the opportunity by the rules to go, hey, I'm not going to make the decision. The TMO can make the decision with, that 8-minute period that he has. Of course he's going to do that. So I have no issues with what Ben O'Keefe did there. It's definitely on the TMO. I don't know where he found mitigation. And I think Ben O'Keefe even gave him almost the cheat sheet there, because he said there's no mitigation, it's a yellow card in his decision. So I don't know how he found that there was enough, at least, mitigation, because yes, was it McLeod? I think, yes, he dipped, but definitely not enough to justify it being yellow. Your thoughts, Sean?
Oh, I'm angry, man. I don't have a problem with. I actually support what Super Rugby are doing with giving a yellow and making it an off-field red. I support that. How quickly the game got back underway is essentially what they're after. Everything was right. There are 2 things that I am supremely angry about. Dallas McLeod not going off for an HIA
goodness.
straight away is diabolical. The man was down. He was out. He was bleeding from his nose or his face. They clearly saw it was head-on-head contact. They both should have gone off for an HIA. But the fact that Dallas McLeod was allowed to play for 2 more minutes before they took him off is a shocker. It's diabolical. Like, it goes against everything World Rugby are trying to do, everything that's trying to happen. And I can't. For me, that I could not believe it. And I even tweeted it off the RugbyBits account. I was like, he has not gone off. It's terrible, but he will go off in the next few minutes. And 2 minutes later, went off and failed his HIA. Like, how are they not picking that up before?
Yeah.
So that's the biggest problem for me. Like, That's 2 minutes of a game. He can be involved in more contact in 2 minutes. And he didn't look right. His face was bleeding. Like, you could see there was head-on-head contact. They should make it mandatory if they have to, because
Yes.
the thing is the laws and rules are changed because people are either taking the piss or they're not being implemented properly. It's going to get to a stage where World Rugby are going to say, right, any head-on-head contact, both are off for an HI non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And you're going to see a light one happen, and everyone's going to be up in arms. You need to come back to this moment here, and you need to look at it and understand why this was put in place, because there's off-field doctors, and they're supposed to be looking at stuff and doing. They had ample time to look at it beforehand. During the breakdown. Like when the contact happened, there was 3 or 4 minutes between when it happened and the yellow card. There's time to look at it. I mean, anyway, now that's out of the way. The other thing is that Anton Leinert-Brown, the contact was a red card. It's a straight red. You watch it, you see it's a yellow card, but understand that Super Rugby allows for it to be a yellow card, and then off field they've got 8 minutes to upgrade it to a red if need be. Head-on-head contact. Dallas McLeod totally dips slightly, but he dips, yes. But that would have not changed anything. Anton Leinert-Brown came at force. He was not hinging at the hips. He did not change his height. He was always going to make high contact. So it's not that like his high contact was changed by Dallas McLeod dipping. It's poor. It's poor all round. There's nowhere in the laws or anywhere where you look at that and go, mitigation or law, blah, 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 states that this doesn't have to be a red card. It's a shocker. There were 1 or 2 trolls taking the piss on social media saying it's play on, but that was literally for attention. I really don't believe there's one person that looks at that incident, one fan that looks at that incident and goes, that's not a red card. I didn't see one that wasn't trying to what seemed like they were trolling. So it's poor. Anyway, Anton Leinert-Brown has been cited, so I do expect him to be banned. I really don't expect that to come away with nothing. That's definitely a red card offense, and that's why it was cited. So we'll see what happens. So the bad side of the coin there is Anton Leinert-Brown's not going to be playing for the All Blacks for 1 or 2 games, which means Rico's going to be playing 13. No.
I was waiting for you to get to that realization. I was just laughing.
Rent free, man. He lives rent free. I can't believe it. But anyway, yeah. I just want the right decisions made, and the wrong decision was made, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about the card.
Welcome, Rico Ioane, to being the outside centre for the All Blacks in the 2023 Rugby World Cup. Just a few quick other things about the game. I mean, the 3 of the tries that were scored, I mean, 2 of them were rolling mauls. They're beautiful, I guess, in their own right. But 3 of the tries were just amazing, like backline moves. And the Stevenson one and the one that Mo'unga finished as well were just top draw. Yeah, you can't really ask for more than that, especially in the final. So both teams, their attack was on it on Saturday. Even the Narao one that was disallowed, that was a really, really good.
Yeah, I really like the Chiefs are definitely the best backline attacking side, I think. But I just want to say something completely left field. I'm slightly upset because I believe this has to be separated. Cody Taylor is now or is equal to, I can't remember, I'm doubting myself, but he is the highest scoring forward in Super Rugby history. Or equal. He's up there. And he has overtaken and I like Cody Taylor. But the thing is, he's a hooker. So, like, can we not distinguish between what was like a maul try and what wasn't a maul try? Because it's unfair. And he's overtaken Scott Higginbotham, who was his tries per game ratio was astronomical, and he was scoring blistering tries. This guy should have been around when Eddie Jones was coaching, because he would have been like, oh, you want a utility forward that can play on the wing? I present to you Scott Higginbotham. And he scores tries too. So I tell you, EJ would have snapped him up. But yeah, I feel I feel that there needs to be an asterisk there or something, because Higginbotham's tries and what he was doing, he did score some more tries. I do remember that, but majority of his tries were ridiculous. There's got to be a difference, surely. Like, you can't be like relegated down to 4th or 5th on the log and everyone just looks at him and doesn't pay attention in the future because they're like, he's 5 tries off, so he obviously wasn't that good. Well, yeah, he was a flippin' 8th man, Lucy, and he was just running them from everywhere. And he left Super Rugby early. Anyway,
okay, so
another moan.
We are striking out Cody Taylor from the records. That's
you can afford the hookers can have their own little window of top try scorers, and leave the rest of the forwards to fight out the rest. How's that?
I think I'm going to represent Cooks here. He was having a rant, but this is in the soccer context, about people only counting goals that weren't from penalties, being like, that makes 0 sense. And I think I'll
really?
Yeah, there's this thing about like, if you score you should have like a like your goal count and your non-penalty goal count, because penalty is obviously easier to score, which is ridiculous. Which, Shaun, you're teetering on the edge of saying these things now as well, but not. I'll allow, but I just want Cooks to note that I did raise this point in his absence. Yeah, no, I was also just super happy for Taylor, just seeing his emotion after the win as well. I think he's still gonna be here next year, right? I don't think he's going, because I know
he's not leaving unless him leaving has been overshadowed by everyone else leaving. But no, he's there to stay. So he's gonna climb super high on that little list.
So yeah, but the main thing, and I'm shocked we didn't address it until now, is okay, what do we think about the dance performance from Scott Robertson and Richie Mo'unga?
I was just gonna say, like, he photobombed, he dance bombed. What is it? What can we call it? He just cruised in there, worming across. I was like, whoa, hang on, look a second that. Geez, I couldn't even say that out properly. But he's waited until coach had his last game, because if he did that last year, he would have been benched for the season, buddy. You can't steal the limelight off the coach. And he had his moments. He was like, I got this. And then he was like,
no, he definitely stole the moment there. But yeah, great worm. I mean, Razor did his thing. We know what he does by now. He hasn't really changed in the last 4 or so years. Was that his wife that came into the circle at the end? I assume so.
I actually don't know.
Yeah,
don't know.
I assume so.
I'm with you. I assume so. Yeah.
Shaun, is there maybe, because I know you're a bit more seasoned than I am, if I can put it like that, is there a beef between Justin Marshall and Scott Robertson that we don't know about? Because it just sounded like Justin was a bit salty about everything, especially in that celebration video.
I don't know of something openly, but maybe he's on the Steve Hansen train, and maybe he's holding a little bit of vibes against Robertson because of what NRU did.
Okay.
NZRU. Maybe. Correct. I don't know. I'm speculating, eh? Please do not quote me on this. Just throwing it out there.
No. I'm willing to hear any reasoning, because he just sounded a bit like almost sarcastic and being like, yeah, he's doing it again. He's such a horrible dancer. We don't need to watch it. I don't know if he was just bored about the breakdancing thing or whatever. But I mean, Marshall's usually hype man for everything. So
I know he loves that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Let the boys play. Yeah.
So I was very surprised. Oh, wow. I was like, okay, maybe there was some, I don't know, historical beef from, the early 2000s or something that I might have missed. Yeah, but I mean, apart from that, Razor did his thing. We'll have to see how many times or what competitions he decides to do it for the All Blacks. But yeah, as we discussed a few weeks ago, he'll probably have to be a bit more selective. It has to be only like rugby championships and Bledisloes and World Cups, probably.
Yeah, let's wait and see. But so much happening. so much water's got to travel under the bridge in the next few months. It's going to. We are actually. I mean, I know it's a World Cup year, so it's obviously going to be exciting, and everyone's eyes on for everything. I mean, Wales have now lost Ken Owens, and it looks like it might be for the World Cup. Like they've lost all their captains, all their caps. So very much looks like Dowie Lake is going to be front and center for the Welshman. But anyway, sorry. So there's so much happening, but there's even more happening now. Like so much, even with the Springboks, with Jacques Nienaber leaving it after the World Cup, Scott Robinson going into the All Blacks, Eddie Jones and Steve Borthwick. Like there are so many things happening, which is awesome because it keeps us in the mix leading up to Rugby Championship, friendlies, and the World Cup. But this story is not done. All these stories are not done yet. There are going to be some serious like curveballs thrown all over the show. I think it's only just beginning.
Yeah, and just a final word. Obviously, well wishes to Richie Mo'unga leaving Super Rugby as, in my opinion, the best Super Rugby player ever. Sam Whitelock is not too far that list as well, and he leaves with 20 Super Rugby titles or whatever it is. Yeah, and they've really, I think Sam Whitelock did like sort of do that era when the Crusaders could never win the final or the semi-final and would pretty much the best team for like 5 years with Todd Blackadder. And now is in this era where the Crusaders can't find an excuse to lose it. He's obviously been a big servant of Super Rugby. So that's going to be interesting to see if the Crusaders can still maintain this next season. You won't bet against them, even without Mo'unga and Razor. But yeah, I'm sure the other teams are just happy to see the other side of it.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. And interesting to see what comes in Super Rugby next year. There's like a whole nother story happening there. So good times.
Okay, so let's move to look at the Currie Cup final that also happened this weekend. The Cheetahs winning that 25 points to 17. Everyone has dusted off their Ruan Pienaar takes. He's, the best thing since sliced bread. He had a great game. I think also we must mention, Jean-Ray Rudolph just came to the game and had 5 turnovers, which was ridiculous. And I mean, Tinus de Beer was good. I think it was a pretty, like, in terms of, I only saw the highlights, but it wasn't really like a Cheetahs running away with it as much as, it was competitive. It just, obviously the Cheetahs had a bit more quality at the end. And the Cheetahs are now the Currie Cup champions, well deserved. I think a very good team, probably almost, them and the Pumas can put in this bracket of probably too good for this like watered down Currie Cup, almost a semi-pro Currie Cup in a way. But obviously we can't really find a solution for them to be in a regular international tournament year after year. So that's unfortunate. But a great send-off for, not send-off for Ruan Pienaar because he's decided to play another 23 seasons. But a great game and a great win for the Cheetahs in Bloemfontein.
I never thought I'd see the day when South African fans would be okay with Ruan Pienaar getting back into the Springbok setup.
Now,
I never thought. It's no secret that I'm a massive fan of Ruan Pienaar. I think he's probably one of the most talented backline players we've ever had. To be able to play Test rugby at 9, 10, and 15 is quite remarkable. But I just think he got a raw deal a couple of times. But he's a talent. He is a talent. And I've been fighting for him, and I still think that he's one of those players that is probably one of the unluckiest Springboks not to reach 100 tests. So I'm super happy for him. Signed a year contract extension. The gift that keeps on giving. So loving it. There's some questions asked about would he get a Springbok call-up, and it was very interesting and quite clear that he was like, nope, I'm going to have holiday with my family. So I think he just basically told everyone, listen, there's no plans. I haven't got any calls from any Springbok coaches. Like, just don't worry. Everything's fine. But yeah, great player. That's what we want, man. Like, grew up, went to the Sharks, made his name, Springbok, went overseas, became a legend, an Ulster legend. Went to Montpellier, did bloody well there. And then he came back and wants to end his career at home, and then he starts doing this sort of stuff. It's quite insane. So, yeah, super happy, man. Oh,
yeah. And if Siya Mosoko can just take 20% of what Ruan Pienaar has probably taught him the last year or so, that'll be fantastic for his career as well going forward, knowing that he's going to the Sharks. And I mean, there's a decent opportunity for him to be at least a backup playoff in the URC team. So that's also something to look forward to. And yeah, I think Bloemfontein did well with their hosting. You had the Harley Davidsons, you had the Boeing that flew over the stadium. It was actually the anniversary of the World Cup win, right? The 28th anniversary.
I don't know. Was it on Saturday? But
I believe so.
I know it was.
Or that weekend, maybe.
Well, I knew it was this weekend. It was over the weekend. So quite incredible. I've actually very fortunately watched a Currie Cup final in Bloemfontein, and Cheetahs won it. It's when the Cheetahs beat the Lions. It was a long time ago, but the Cheetahs beat the Lions, I think it was. The Cheetahs beat the Sharks in the semi-final, and that was a bit of a shake-up. And then the Cheetahs beat, no, a lie. Maybe the Lions beat the Sharks. But either way, I know the Sharks were going to host the final. And then it turned out that it worked out in such a way, and then the Cheetahs hosted it, and I think they needed to score 14 points in 10 minutes or 15 points. No, it was 14 or 13 points in 10 minutes to win it at home, and they did it. It was quite something. But Bloemfontein, all those years ago, blew me away, man. Like, Currie Cup final, like there were tractors, like orange tractors with like cheetah paw prints all down the side. Like that was just the norm down the road. I was like, what the hell's going on here? These people are weird, man. Anyway, and then only did I realize like they were just supporting, and then I figured out what it was all about. It was flipping insane, and then to be part of it was to be there and be part of it was quite incredible. So yeah, it was great for Bloem, man.
Yeah, I think that's a good day in the office for everyone, and I'm glad also that it was looking to be full. Bit of a pitch invasion at the end of the game as well. So I think Bloem has to work on their security, especially if they are trying to like stake their claim to hosting like European matches and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, apart from that, great day in that cat fight between the Cheetahs and the Pumas. Sure, let's move. Oh, very quickly, I want to mention that Gloucester Hotbury also won the Premiership, the Premier 15 final against Exeter the weekend.
What a result!
Yeah, look, I'm a Saracens fan for both the men and the women. So I'm a bit unhappy about them not making the final. But yeah, seemed like Gloucester was really happy to make the final or to win the final as well. And I saw this stat about I want to get her name right. If I'm
Natasha Hunt.
Natasha Hunt, yes, with the assists, the 29 assists that she made in the tournament. What?
Yeah, 28.
28. Ridiculous.
It's Up to Johnny. So for those who love rugby and don't follow Up to Johnny, please follow Up to Johnny. It's the Opta stats, but the all rugby based stuff. But yeah, he listed it, or the account listed it, 28 try assists, and he listed it by round. And there were, out of the 19 games played by Hunt, there were 5 games where she didn't provide a try assist. And in round 5, she gave 5 try assists. It's ridiculous. We'd be if any male player did that, we'd just be like, you need to be capped, and you need to be capped now, kind of thing, like that's how. But I tell you, the women's game is quite something. I've been following the Premier 15s, not exceptionally close, but I mean, I've been involved with it for a couple of years now. And there seems to be it's not a one-way traffic. It's not a Leinster win everything kind of a league. There are upsets all over the show. There's some sides that take a pasting, but it's in terms of the growth, the growth is clearly on an upward trajectory because they are the games are pulling in thousands and thousands of fans. If you look at it year on year, everything's they're just smashing the records out the park with games. If you look at the Women's Six Nations, they also set a record for fans for one of the Six Nations games. So yeah, it's incredible. There was a little bit of a shake-up with the Prem 15s where some sides were dropped, and yeah, it was a bit controversial. I don't know enough about it to comment. But there's a couple sides that are coming through the mix and been allocated Prem 15 status. So next year it's going to be pretty decent. We got a couple of our book women playing there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always a couple of our ladies to keep an eye out for. But it's good. It's well worth the follow. And just following on Twitter and seeing people comment about being at the game, they just say it's just incredible. Like the vibe is great. Like it's not men rugby supporters, men's game rugby supporters, like that kind of like drink, get drunk, fall over, cause chaos kind of stuff. Like it's just a great environment.
Better in some ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's great for them. And yeah, another championship for them. Also nice, that little video that the Gloucester men did to announce the team was also a nice touch.
Hey, man, hopefully that's what you need.
Yeah, man, things like that should happen more and more automatically. So
to be fair, the Saracens club are heavily involved all around. Like it is like, there's a lot of stuff happening there with both teams. So.
Yeah, my hope is that's like, it's an easy goal. Like it's an open goal for people to take there. So hopefully that happens more in future. Yeah, so that's that on the Premier 15s. Quickly on the under 20s. So we had a whole Saturday of the under 20 championship championship happening on Saturday. Hosted in Cape Town or in the Western Cape in general. And basically the good news is it's not being hosted in the Cape Town Stadium. I mean, the other pitches were holding on for dear life in some of the highlights and games that I saw. Hosting it in winter in Cape Town, probably not the best idea ever. But apart from that, great matches. The England-Ireland game, one match that I did sort of see a lot of, was really, really, really good. And that ended in a, I think, 35-all draw. New Zealand also came
34s?
Back. 34s, yeah. New Zealand came back from like almost death to win against Wales. South Africa narrowly beat Georgia. I think maybe more people should focus on the Georgia side being a lot better than maybe some people might have thought. Then complaints about the Springboks. 40s. Yeah. Shaun, do you want to talk about your friend in the Georgian bench?
So I'm a big one on getting people's names and trying to say them right, but I don't have a list of everyone of the sides, all the under 20s. So I do apologize because I do like to name people.
I think I've got it here. So it's
the Georgian
Nikoloz,
replacement hooker.
Yeah, Nikoloz Babunashvili.
Okay, Nikoloz Babunashvili is Mr. Nikoloz Babunashvili. He's not a under 20. He was dad bodding hard. He's a big human, okay? We know this from the Georgians. But he was dad bodding, had a beard. Yes, it's not unusual for under 20s to have a beard, but he had like an old beard. Like I don't know how to explain it, but like he had a beard. Like he's been shaving for like a decade. He had he had receding hairline, which is also not unusual, but he looked old. He was dad bodding. He couldn't even fit into his top properly. He really looks like he's somebody. He's like the forwards coach, and they're like, shit, we've got an injury. Let's just put him in. No one will know the difference. He looked like an worm. He really did. But yeah, I am being a little disrespectful, but it was there were a couple of guys. Listen, to be fair, the Georgians have never really ever had baby faces. There's only been a couple of the youngsters that have come through that have really looked young, and that's because they started playing for the Georgia under 20s when they were 16. So, be that as it may. But yeah, just my brief little roundup of the under 20s. Argentina, Italy. Italy got an early red card, and Argentina just sorted the whole thing out. and said thanks for coming. So that was a big win for the RGs. England Ireland, that game was flowing, like the momentum was swapping between sides. I thought, I was the English back five were ginormous. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I thought there's no way Ireland are going to even be in the mix. And England had the upper hand, and then they didn't have the upper hand, and then it went down. A couple of kicks missed by Prendergast, who's like the next best thing at 10 for Ireland. Like everyone's saying he's the next Sexton. So he didn't have a great kicking day, but these things happen to everybody. Like, let's be honest, but very interesting. The French under 20s were French, yeah.
Very quickly, do you have any idea how different this England team was to the England team that was in the under 26 nations? Because I don't think there's been much difference, but they performed really, really well considering that they weren't that great in the 20 tournament.
Yeah, I don't think there were too many changes. I don't think necessarily in the pack. I will say something. Both the English props.
Oh my goodness. Oh my word.
They are massive, massive guys, which is what you expect. But they are mobile. They've got hands. They get involved. Both of them. And the one guy, the Lucet prop, I can't remember his name. I think he was not. It was one of the props, but they were at London Irish, so they're kind of a free agent at the moment. And to have a game like that, when you know there are some people looking at you, is quite something. So, yeah, England have got some stars. They've got players that you can totally see a lot of those players playing professional, like playing in the Prem. That's the kind of look they have. So that's why I was surprised by what happened. But yeah, I don't know the balance of how many of them played the under 20, played the Six Nations versus now. But I'm really going to take a blind stab here. But I really, just by the look of it, I think they were pretty much the same. But yeah, but the French under 20s, they beat Japan 75-12. France were francing; they were just doing their thing. We spoke about the Kiwis, Wales versus New Zealand. I think the big standout for me was the two things was I really thought Wales were going to win that. But New Zealand played a different game in the second half. They really changed the way they did things and how they owned the situation. The one thing I will say about Wales, that is the biggest centre pairing I've seen in years. They are big. They are really, really big. Australia, Fiji, I missed the game. I was following it on socials, but it went like Australia were in the lead. Fiji were in the lead. It was just chopping and changing. At one stage, I thought Fiji were going to win it. So it finished 46-37 to Australia, but I think Australia scored at the end while Fiji were pushing for the win. So that's how it all unfolded there. But I wouldn't be surprised if Australia and Fiji go a little bit further. It will go deep, should I say, into this tournament. Yeah, and then South Africa and Georgia, I watched a bit of the first half and I missed a lot of the second half. And I got nervous. I really did, because I thought South Africans were they did the opposite to what New Zealand did. Like South Africa did really well and then just took their foot off the gas, it seemed, So there's a lot got to change, or be polished, should I say. But yeah, well, great opening round, mud bath everywhere for everyone. So looking forward to seeing what happens for the rest of the tournament with the pitches.
Good luck to those pitches. I think the one thing I wanted to say was for the France-Japan game, there's a try scored from like basically the others, like from their 22 by, I want to get his name right, Noah Zinzen. And
is he the next Sekou Makalu?
Yes. So I think he also is
he's a Lucy.
France, yeah, and runs like wind. Jeez.
Man, he runs like a back. Like you can see the style of the way people are running. Like when they're running and there's option for swerves and whatever. He's got wheels.
So that is also I think don't watch this if you're a fan of like other teams, because you'll obviously be encouraged by your players, and that's good. But then you just look at the other players or other countries are producing other players. You're like, oh snap, we're still going to deal with a great Irish fly half. We're still going to deal with awesome English locks and a great eighth man and another Ellis Genge. We're still going to deal with another Makalu, or, you know, you can start getting a bit in a deep hole when you look at it from that perspective. But yeah, he was great. Or that try was amazing, I should say. And he seems to be really hyped up, at least in the one or two French accounts that I follow, that yeah, he's going to be the next big thing. Yeah, and the Pendergrast, I watched him today or watched him on Saturday, and the one I think the biggest compliment you can give a player at this level is he looks like he should be a professional right now, where other players maybe look, they still need to be a bit refined more. But I mean, apart from his goal kicking, which is an easy fix, his aggression and defense, his aggression and attack, he's got it. Like, yeah.
He's also big, eh? I didn't realize he's like 6 foot.
Yeah.
He's massive.
Yeah, there was obviously some people that were saying like crazily like he should be in the World Cup squad or whatever. I mean, we can hold the breaks there, but yeah, I won't be too surprised if he's not playing like the majority of the URC games next season for Leinster. Like he's at least at that level for next season. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how he progresses in the next few years. But Lewis Chesham, Ollie Chesham's brother, goodness, he's also really good. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how these players go. The pools are also quite interesting because England and Ireland, as we saw, in the same pool. Australia's in that pool as well, so that's going to be interesting. France and New Zealand are in the same pool. That's going to be a crazy
They play
match.
on Thursday.
Oh goodness! Oh goodness!
They play on Thursday.
And then I mean, the Springboks are. I mean, the Baby Blacks. I mean, yeah, their pools may be somewhat easier, but I mean, Argentina showed their quality. Italy's a lot better than that result. They beat a few of the big teams in the Six Nations and 26 Nations. So yeah, that's not the. I mean, there's glass half full and glass half empty. Like half full, they haven't really had many warm ups and all that sort of stuff. So they will improve. But yeah, half empty is that's going to be quite interesting against Pumas side on fire and an Italy side that's going to be a lot better the next game.
Yeah, we play Italy on Thursday, and I'm going to go glass half empty. If we don't sort our shit out, Italy will beat us. They are significantly better than Georgia, and they have what any South African side, any age group side that has ever played rugby against any Italian side, this Italian under 20 side and the one last year, but mostly this one, have a different mindset in that they know they can win, where previously it wasn't the case. You know, you understand that, like mental, like when you know that, like when we face Italy know that the Springboks and the Junior Boks are better than them and they should win and they're going to give it their all, but they know that they're probably not going to make it over the line. This Italian side is different. Yeah. So we really need to pull finger. 4:00 Thursday, we play Italy. It's big.
Yeah. Let's move to some of the other bits and bots about the other news in the rugby world. A few more other World Cups, or well, in this case, Rugby Championship squads have been announced. Argentina announced their squad earlier last week. No real surprises in the squad. Nothing really was noticeable of people.
Kramer's there.
Yes.
Kramer's there. I thought he'd be banned for an eight months, but he's there. Just FYI for everybody.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll at least be able to make an appearance at the World Cup. But yeah, he's obviously, when he isn't stupid, he's obviously one of their key players. So I assume he's going to be in that loose trio with himself, Matera, and Gonzalez. So that's, yeah. But yeah, that team, I mean, Shaun, you can look through the names. They announced 48 players. You look through those names, there's number one going to be quite a few good players in this out, especially in the back three positions. And number two, that first 23, yeah, I mean, a lot of people are saying Australia could be the team that goes through and that's on the other side of the pool. I would maybe put my money on Argentina.
Argentina love a World Cup. They're always up for it. And they generally they're a hard knockout team to play. Like, they're either going to beat you in the quarters or they're going to make you work for it. So, yeah, I'd be wary of them. And remember, they got Shakes. That man's always worth something somewhere. He's interesting human, but he's deadly. Like, the same as Eddie Jones. Like they've got something somewhere. So I'd be worried with Argentina. The only thing that the whole world has, and that's our little trump card against the Pumas, is that they hardly ever spend any time together. So that's why their World Cups are always generally so good, is because they get to spend World Cup time together. But it's the only thing we have, is that they don't gel together as much as almost anyone else.
Yeah, so they're going to be a threat. They're facing the All Blacks in Argentina in their first game. Yeah, I would be
which is not a problem for them. No, aren't they? No, they're playing. Oh, they're playing in Argentina.
Yes.
I thought they were playing in New Zealand. Sorry, my bad. They don't mind playing in New Zealand either, to be fair.
Yes.
But sorry, my apologies. Yeah, they're playing the All Blacks at home. Oh,
yeah.
And a shaky All Blacks.
Oof.
Because they're still going to be shaky for a while.
Yeah, we can probably do predictions in the next pod, but this rugby championship, you can make an argument for pretty much, especially because it's the shortened one, you can make an argument for pretty much any of the teams winning, because you can either say draw or teams are going to rest these players for these games, whatever. But I mean, Argentina's draw is New Zealand at home, and then Australia in Australia. I mean, not the worst thing. And then South Africa in South Africa, which might be the second team, depends. So you can think of a situation where Argentina gets 2 out of 3 wins there.
Yeah, it's true. This tournament's going to go down to PD again, I think. Points difference, something like that's going to happen. We could go everyone with 2 wins.
Yeah, 2
Everyone
wins.
Could finish the last round with 2 wins. Yeah.
No, they'll definitely. I think bonus points and the such will be very important. Then Australia also came out with their World Cup squad, or their Rugby Championship squad, on Saturday.
Just a public service announcement. If you are Australian and you weren't named in Eddie Jones's squad, you are cuck at rugby. You just need to know that. He has named everybody.
I'm sorry, no, Lolosio. Yeah, he's named both the Australian squad and Australia, like the people that are injured, the people that are rehabbing, and then an Australian A squad that's going to be facing Tonga. So yeah, I think he named about 50 odd players in those squads, or resting, or whatever.
Mate, he named 70.
How many? Is it 70?
I'm sure he named 72 or 70 something. I'll find out for you now. You can carry on with this with the intro.
Okay, main highlights of the squad. Taniela Tupou's back, which is great. There's a few new, or there is a new prop that's been chosen. Zane Nongo from the Queensland Reds. At lock, Will Skelton and Richie Arnold make their returns. They obviously play in La Rochelle and Toulouse respectively, which means there's no place for Cadeyrn Neville, which I think is a mistake. Loose forwards,
that's a big one, eh?
Yeah, I don't understand that. There's Cadeyrn Neville, I think I would probably actually even play him above Richie Arnold, at least in my opinion. Loose forwards, Tom Hooper has made it. He's not related to Michael Hooper. They are likening him to Pieter-Steph du Toit, which is not the worst comparison in the world. I think he does have a lot of that. Rob Leota's back from his Achilles injury. No Harry Wilson, so Queensland is pissed at the moment. You've got obviously Jed Holloway and Michael Hooper is captain, actually co-captain with James Slipper. In the back line, you've got Quade Cooper. He's back at number 10. He is with Carter Gordon, the youngster from the Rebels, and Ben Donaldson, who is one of the utilities. Let's come back to that a bit later. No Samu Karevi yet. He's still in the rehab squad of 20. And you've got the likes of Lenny Kitao and Isaiah Peresi and Lala Faketi in the centers. Back three, you've got Marika Korobete. He's back from Japan. You've got Tom Wright, our favorite rugby player on RugbyBits. You've got Suli Vunivalu, who must have the best band in the world, because I don't understand why else he's been picked. Finally, you've got 3 utilities that have been picked by Eddie Jones. Utility in this case means that they are going to be playing not just multiple positions either in the forwards or the backs, but possibly multiple positions in both the forwards and the backs. Those 3 utilities are Ben Donaldson, I don't know if he can call lineouts, but he might be playing in the loose forwards and in the back line. You've got Josh Kemery, who I think plays for he plays for the Rebels. Apparently, he's going to be put on the wing. And Dylan Peach, who's in the Waratahs, who plays wing. He's probably going to be the Jack Noel of this group and play in the loose forwards. Yeah, so Shaun, I mean, no Noah Lolosio in either of the squads. So that's, I think, a shock to myself. You've got some players, the likes of Cadeyrn, Neville, Folau Fainga, that probably, at least in my opinion, would be more than good enough for the main Australian squad, who I'm not understanding what's going to happen with them. Australia's really struggling with fullbacks. They basically, the only fullback options they have is Ben Donaldson, Reece Hodge, and Tom Wright, which will be fun. And apart from that, yeah, I think that's pretty much all the surprises and all the things as well. In the Australian A squad, by the way, Seru Uru, the lock loose forward for the Reds, he's their utility player, so he'll also be in the centres probably. So Shaun, yeah, Eddie Jones has continued his tradition from England of picking a squad where you're going, huh? The whole time.
Yeah. So he has, all in all, named 72 players. Okay, 8 uncapped players in the group. But as you mentioned, the Aussie A's are also playing. So it's the right time. Same as the Kiwis. The Kiwis have named a New Zealand A side as well. It's definitely the right year to be doing that sort of stuff. You want to keep people in the mix. I know I'm a little bit biased, but I thought James O'Connor would have got a little bit of a look in just because of that 15 option. It allows you, he can play 10 or 12 or 13, and he can really go to 15 in worst case scenario, but it allows you to free up someone else to play 15. But yeah, I don't think Eddie Jones is joking. The thing is Eddie Jones has created such an amazing brand for himself that he will say whatever he wants. And people are like, oh, is it banter? Is he going to do it? Like, you'd never really know. And but I do really think that we are going to get a 7-1 bench out of the Wallabies before the World Cup. I don't think it'll be trialled in the World Cup. But we'll see a 7-1 bench. He's spoken about it. He's joked about it. He's deadly serious about having a forward that can play on the wing. So that changes everything. The biggest omission of the whole lot is Tawera Kerr-Barlow.
Yes.
I just needed to say his name. I needed to still be out there in the universe. I need that to happen. Having said that, though, he's picked 4 overseas-based players in this group. 5. Who have I missed?
So
we've got
Arnold,
Skelton, Arnold,
Cooper,
Karevi, Coops, and...
Man, I had one. Sorry. Let me just go back to the squad.
No worries.
Okay, Arnold, I've got.
Bernard Foley.
Got Will Skelton. No, he didn't pick Foley, at least in the main squad.
Yeah.
You've got Quade Cooper at 10. You've got Samu Karevi. Jeez, man, I had this just a few days ago. Okay, but continue.
So he's over his quota. So Corey Betsy's the other one. He's over his quota of foreign players. So yeah, that kind of gives me the answer in itself. But yeah, I'd like to think he at least tried. I don't think any squad in the world could do, if they had an opportunity to bring TKB into the mix, like in your squad. I think they'd do well. Anyway, like I said, I just had to say it just to keep it out there in the world. But yeah, it's a Eddie Jones squad. There's mix and match. There's him. He's never really bowed to that. Like, you've got to play this player. I think Marcus Smith was a great example. He avoided that for so long, and then probably was forced into it, and then it really didn't work. So he's very much a coach. He has to coach like really high up, like test level or a super, super wealthy club, because he fits into that Jake White mold in that he he creates a team for what he wants and what he believes is going to win. So he will pick player X because he fits that mold, not because player X is playing well at the moment, but he knows that, you know what I mean? Like, he's not a Jimmy Stonehouse who's only got these players and he needs to make that work. So Eddie Jones is going to Eddie Jones. But I won't lie. It's confusing and a bit stressful as a non-Wallaby fan, because you kind of don't know what's happening. And we are first up, mate. The Springboks are first up. And we get to see what he delivers. And Eddie Jones, he doesn't care. He's not going to show his hand now just so he can prove a point. You know, he'll whip out something somewhere, and it might be for the Bledisloe game, because they're always generally, well, not always, but it's a contest for a large period of time. Like, he might whip out something somewhere towards the end of a game to win it or something like that. But you know that he's only focused on one thing, and that's France. The World Cup is the be-all and end-all for Eddie Jones. That's all he wants. So I'm a bit wary, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know what the Springbok technical staff is doing in the next 2 weeks, because, you can't really prepare for this. Obviously, it's a new coach, it's new players, it's utilities, ? And there's some question marks about what's going to happen. I think just in terms of main question marks is, I'd love to see what the Wallabies do with their locks. If they are going to start both Arnold and Skelton and go for size, that probably means Slipper and Alatoa and Tupou need to do their bicep curls, because they're going to be lifting heavy loads then. The Tupou question is also interesting. I think he's touch and go for the Springbok test, so it seems like he might not be 100% fit by then. Obviously, he's also coming back from a long-term injury. So that means two of either Gibbon and Nonago are going to probably be on the bench for the Springbok game at Loftus, which is going to be a big test for them. I'd love to see what happens between Rob Leota and Jade Holloway. I think that's going to be a very interesting battle for 6. Backup 9 is going to be interesting. They have picked the Brumbies backup.
Ryan Lonergan.
Instead of Jake Gordon, which is interesting to say the least. So I'm not sure what that means.
I look at that. I think Lonergan's good. I don't think he's test quality yet.
Yeah.
But no one is before they're capped, to be frank. Like, let's play a game and state the obvious. But there's no ways that he's better than TKB. So it's interesting call.
Or Jake Gordon.
I actually quite like Jake Gordon. I actually do like him. I prefer him over McDermott. But McDermott's been, like, to be fair, when I did have this argument, McDermott was absolutely on fire last season. So it was really hard to back it up. But so it's interesting to see. They're looking a little thin at 9 for me. But in having said that, is in McDermott, they've got a player that can totally play 20, 30 minutes and finish a game off, so that's not a problem.
Yeah.
And they love playing with the Nick White. They'll happily keep him on the whole game. It's a brilliant 9. Tactically, he's incredible. He kicks well. He's always up in everyone's face, and he's a great leader. So,
Shaun, I think they might, because of the 10s, because, I mean, they've got Quaid as a 10. Quaid's not been the best with injuries the last few years. And they've only got Gordon and Donaldson as their other options. I think it might be that McDermott starts with Quaid, and then Nick White is basically babysitter to either Gordon or Donaldson, who comes off the bench. So he might be like in that bomb squad. You'll play, and I mean, we know Eddie Jones is not scared to sub someone out after 30 minutes, but White will probably only come on in like the second half and, do a bit of babysitting with the young 10 that he plays with.
I don't see that. I don't think the Wallabies can afford to not start Nick White under any circumstances. So we'll have to see how that unfolds.
Yeah.
Or, you could be onto something in that Nick White is always going to start. So let's see how the other lads start in case we need them. So you possibly have a very valid point. But in a competitive game, and by competitive, I mean like a game that really, really matters, Nick White starts every single day of the week.
Yeah, so 10's going to be interesting if they're going to, how they manage Carter Gordon. Is he going to be thrown in straight in this Springbok game and put on the bench? And with the possibility that Quaid, I mean, hasn't had the best luck with injuries. Or are they going to start with Donald, or like get Donaldson off the bench? He covers 15, which is one of the positions that have a bit of an issue. And yeah, who plays 15? Probably Reece Hodge, since he covers everything already. It might be Tom Wright, which would be hilarious, or it might be Donaldson. And Donaldson really wasn't good in Super Rugby, especially after he got picked by Eddie Jones' that training squad. He didn't really play well. And then in midfield, I mean, until Karevi comes back, it'll probably be Foketi and Ikitau with Parisi as backup. In the wings, it's probably going to be Korobete and Nawakani Tawase. I mean, he played amazingly in the November tour. The only issue is that he was playing as an 11, and Korobete is also 11, but I think Mark can play in 14 as well. Otherwise, I think Tom Wright will be a backup. I don't know, Shaun. I really have no idea what Vunivalu is doing in the squad. Like, I know he's been poached from rugby league and all that sort of stuff, but he is not a great rugby union player.
Yeah. Or as Eddie Jones would put it, not yet, because he clearly sees something there.
Yeah,
but
maybe
you got to feel this is the last chance.
Yeah. I was going to say maybe he sees a bit of Lote Takiri in him. I don't know. And he was the one that was able to help transform Takiri, but yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, let's just hope they don't all come right against us.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I really care about right now. Don't make us look like idiots.
I'm very keen to see what that 50 or 23 is going to be for that game in 2 weeks' time. Shaun, final few bits of news. On a bit of a funny note, I saw a tweet that said that the Springboks are probably going to have Lukhanyo and Peter Steph du Toit in this Australia team. That will mostly be a second team, which is interesting news. And then our friend from the Rugby Fixation podcast, Mitch Evans, said that, I mean, Lukhanyo isn't really the best weapon against Australia. He hasn't beaten them yet, and he always takes lessons from Lene Kitao. So can't really say much about that.
I saw that tweet. Yeah, I saw that tweet. These sort of spicing things up early, Mitch. We on to you. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. It'll Lukhanyo, I'm just waiting for that moment. Yeah, very interesting. It goes back to Ninoba's quote of we're not picking an A and a B side. We are picking a side we believe can beat Australia. So I'm going to stick to that. But I just want to find out what's happening with Damian Willemse, because I need to get mentally ready to have Elton Jantjies play a test match again. Because if Willemse is fit, Elton probably is benched somewhere along the line. But if Willemse is not fit, then I would think that Jantjies will start at 10 against the Wallabies, just to really just send South African Twitter rugby into absolute chaos.
You just want chaos, Shaun.
I just want Jantjies to play again. I want to see what he's got. That's what I want. I want to see what he's got. Like, I want to see on the field is if he's got what it takes to go to the World Cup. Is he there to put pressure on people and really add value, or is he there to make up the numbers? And I believe he's there not to make up the numbers. I think he's there with a realistic shot, just to piss everyone off anyway.
Yeah. And then finally, on some not so good news, it actually happened during when we were recording. The Blue Bulls Rugby Union has announced that Sport Nkosi his contract with the Bulls has been terminated by mutual consent. So he is a free agent. We've seen in the last few months that the relationship between Nkosi and the Bulls hasn't been great. There were many episodes in this timeline with, obviously, he was away for a bit. They couldn't find him. Then he returned, and there's been a few comments by Jake in the media, and possibly an Instagram post by Ngosi about the Bulls, and yeah, it's obviously it's gone too far. It's too far gone now, so there probably wasn't really an opportunity for it to be reconciled. So he's
I
not going to
I
be
just
in
want to
the
jump in
team.
there.
Yeah,
Sorry, I thought you were moving on.
sure.
I think it's a great move. I don't know how to explain this. After everything that has happened, the Bulls have stuck with them. They've been involved. There have been things said, but by all accounts, it looks like the Bulls really have been there. Like from what we can see, they didn't completely discard him straight up and all that, because stuff happened, and you don't know what's going on, and then you find out what's going on. So, but I agree totally with what you finished off with. Is that, before I interrupted you, my apologies. Is it's just too far gone.
Yeah.
It's so I think it's a good thing. I think like they've got respect for each other. Like I think he'll have respect for the Bulls for whatever was done. After all this shit happened, and the Bulls will have respect for the fact that he's come back and done what he's done. But there were things said that didn't go. He's had a moment. He's been away, and he's now got a new lease on life, and he's realized like things need to change, and that changes the way you address things. So maybe the contract negotiations were addressed differently, or maybe the team selection. And he's just like, listen, this is not for me. This is probably what was a contributing factor into how things happened. And so, yeah, so I think it's run its course, even though both parties, I think, would probably look at each other a little bit of respect for what happened behind the scenes. So I look at it differently in that I think it's a great call. I don't think he will struggle to get another team. I don't. It's all about that new beginning at the new team. Is everything done and fixed so it doesn't happen again? Or
Yeah.
is there enough communication and openness? Is it, you know what I mean? Like if things go wonky again, like is there enough support base and belief and understanding that it can change for the positive? So I think it's a good call. I'd love to see where he goes. I really would. I don't think he'll be going back to the Sharks. But I don't know who in South Africa, but who's after player, but maybe like a total change of scenery, UK, France, Japan, maybe something like that will be a thing. But I think it's a positive move, even though the contract was ended by mutual agreement with immediate effect, just generally means there's been an altercation of some sort. But hopefully everything's been set up for his next move. I think it's a great call, and I really, really hope that it's a great call.
Mm. Look, I think at this stage, it's probably for the best, considering all of the dynamics that, I mean, yeah, obviously hearing it from Jake Whiteside, unfortunately, but like what he alluded to seemed like is that he should probably go overseas just to get away from everything. And I mean, obviously, Nkosi is in the best position to say whether that should be the case or not. If he does stay in South Africa, I mean, the Stormers seem to do a job at redeeming and rejuvenating players' careers. So, I mean, he wouldn't be bad there. And they are looking for outside backs. It does look like they have signed Warwick Gelant and Ben Loader. We need to actually quickly talk about Ben Loader after this. So yeah, Stormers and Lions are probably the only options locally, and then overseas, yeah, hopefully he does find a place and does find a team. Yeah. So Shaun, I would say I agree with you, only if he finds another contract. I wouldn't want this to be the end of the story for him in rugby. Yeah. I mean, just you hopefully, I mean, he's still 27. Jeez. You still want him to have at least one more good contract at least before he finishes his career. So hopefully he does have an opportunity for that to happen. If he does obviously need time off, all the better as well. I mean, the Piwe Yankee, I don't think we've talked about it in the podcast, but a Piwe Yankee has been signed by the Sharks. That shows in a different context that, yeah, there will be teams that are waiting or willing to sign you even if you take a bit of a break from rugby. So, yeah, he did show, though, in the Barbarians game that the ability is still there. He can still be a good high-level wing. So maybe that game was the best thing for him. That just put him in the shop window for any other overseas team to take him. So yeah, hopefully that does happen, Shaun.
Yeah, I'm all for it, man. I think there are very few people in South Africa that don't like really dislike him. I think most like him. I think he showed his worth to the Springboks, and leaving the Sharks and at the Bulls and leaving the Bulls was a little bit iffy and butty, but it's about moving forward. And he there's no doubt about it that he has the ability to add value to any team that he goes to. He has that. He's got that work rate about him, So yeah, but yeah, hoping him all the best. But you were talking about Gallant, eh?
Oh yeah, I mean Gallant, yeah, he's officially been released by Racing. Seems like he's coming back to South Africa. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but very exciting to see him back. I mean, Tim Willemse and Libbok were tearing up new things. So yeah, very excited about that. But I want to talk about Ben Loader. He is a London Irish player. I think he's only 22 or 23 this year. A London Irish, unfortunately, has gone through administration. They won't be in the Premiership next season. And yeah, the one thing, if you don't know anything about London Irish, is that they have great talented backline players. So Henry Arundel, he's probably the star of the lot. He's probably going to go to Racing now. You have Walt Joseph. He's just signed for Harlequins, basically as a like-for-like replacement for Joe Marchant. And yeah, I think you can't really get a better replacement than that.
No such thing. No, can't. You can't replace Joe Marchant. I need to make a team up of my players. I do like him, but you can't replace Joe. Like,
I really want to hear this Shaun 15, actually. And then, yeah, I think Ben Loader might actually be the more talented of the bunch, at least in my opinion.
He is
the things that I've seen. Yeah. But
he's a great 15.
Yeah. I think he's going to play
great 15
probably for the Stormers.
Yeah.
If everyone's fit.
But he's a great option at 15.
Yeah.
So can I throw another spanner in the works? It's been very much on the low, on the down low, but Courtnall Skosan is back in Cape Town. Ooh. And he's with Western Province.
Interesting.
And the reason why I saw so is Tygerberg Rugby Club put something out about, there was some raffle, kind of like a player thing where it's just like fringe players were drafted into club rugby teams. And like they all belong to a club rugby team. Like there's quite a few Springboks that are involved, like Malherbers. I don't even know where he's gone, but I know he's been allocated a club, but he's not going to play club rugby, like, let's be honest. But Courtnall Skosan was there. So I was pretty sure he was back in Cape Town. And I knew when he left Saints that I hadn't seen an announcement yet about where he was going. So it looks like he'll be in the mix. So the back three for the Storm was looking like pretty tight at the moment.
Oof. I mean, look, Skosan will be great. Skosan's 11, Loader 14, Galan 15. You still got Davids, Zas, Blommetjies as options as well. The Stormers
and Willemse. I know they're going to. Yeah, I know they're going to miss him a lot because of the World Cup. So there's going to be stand-downs for the Springboks, but they're all of a sudden, like, it's almost going to be a case of what I believe will happen if I'm just looking at these players and let's say they're all fit and they're all in contention to start. Willems is going to have to go to 12 and Nell's going to go to 13. Well, he's at 13. He'll stay there. Yeah. That's where I think they fit it in. I think starting Galant at 15, if you've got those players, you want to start Galant at 15 and then you can have Loader on the wing. I would love to start Loader at 15. But I don't think that it'll happen in that way. I think Galant will take that, or Willemse. So, but I would love to see Loader at 15, but wherever he is in the back three, he needs to play. But now all of a sudden, like, Dobbo's in a space where he's really got to make some tough decisions.
I mean, good decisions to make, but tough decisions nonetheless. But yeah, I think, if Stisatole can work hard at loose head prop and at least give 70-80% of what Kitshoff can do, there's no reason for the Stormers not to be in the business end of the URC. And Lizo's gone to the Stormers as well. Yeah, so
now him, I love Steve, but Lizo, he still was on the fringe of making that Springbok World Cup squad in 2019, and he's been injured, and hasn't got to where he was back then after injury. And I'm waiting for that to happen. That must happen at the Stormers. It must happen now. This is his moment. Stormers are loaded, absolutely loaded.
yeah.
Like, we're talking about it now. The Sharks were loaded last year. The Stormers almost look like that loaded side now.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It's a different type of loaded. They've bought players that will actually, number one, be available for the most of the season. They didn't just buy Springboks, and players that make sense in their squad. So that, I think, is a massive difference, instead of just buying people just for the sake of buying people. So yeah, the setup is there, and yeah, I think there's little reason to not expect the Stormers to be right up there next season. Especially if they've basically sorted out the two main issues from the end of the season, is replacing Kitsoff. They've got Opoku and Stisitole as replacements. They can also get some water from the Brock Harris Fountain of Youth to keep them young. And then then you've got
and the Dion Fourie.
And the Dion Fourie Fountain of Youth, of course. And yeah, I mean, Lode and Geland in your back three, possible Konskasan as well. Jeez, that's going to be a really exciting back three. And they did say there were issues with the back three at the end of the season. I think actually most of the issues were that Damian Willemse was playing at 15 and he should actually be playing at 12. Yeah, I think near the end of the season, I think he was almost getting into that stage of trying to do too much almost by himself, instead of almost letting the game come to him. And maybe 12 was actually his best position. Another conversation for another day. But yeah, I'm very excited for Geland at 15, because I think that brings balance to everything. And yeah, I mean, didn't really work out for him at Racing, but he still had a pretty decent season, all things considered, in a big Galactico team like that. So yeah, excited for him to bring back all that he's learned back to Cape Town.
Yeah. Oof, can't wait.
And then, yeah, very quickly, we have covered Ken Owens being injured. I hope Paul Williams and Squid Rugby and all the Welsh Twitter people are ready to be in the World Cup squad. And then I see a tweet here that says that apparently the Crusaders are going to Ireland to play Munster next year.
When? Like a preseason?
I guess so, yeah. So probably just before Super Rugby starts. It's like almost like a test run for a World Club Championship and how that would work. So
the problem is there's going to be no All Blacks and no Irish internationals there. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, it has to be basically in that perfect scenario where it's that week before the players get withdrawn for the Six Nations, and for NZR to somehow be nice enough to allow the All Blacks to play. So yeah, I think this is probably, yeah, you're right, Sean. I got excited, but you're right with your reality. This is probably not going to be.
Sorry for being that guy.
Get ready for Antoine Frisch versus Fergus Burke. That's what Sean has said.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Listen, Frisch is still going to get a little look in with Ireland, eh? A couple injuries, he's in the mix. He's leapfrogged Hume and can play 12 or 13. So
I feel sad for Hume, man.
I rate him.
Last 12 months has been really bad for him, man. Jeez.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think let's end it off here. I think that's basically all the news in the rugby world that we've covered. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the RugbyBits podcast. Please follow us on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram as well. Follow our website, our RugbyBits website as well, for new postings about our podcast and everything. I've got something as a bit of a sneak. I've got something just working for the Rugby World Cup. A little article just looking at the top 10 sides and how they're shaping up for the World Cup. So hopefully that will be released in the next few weeks. And yeah, please also support us on your favorite podcast provider. Like, share, subscribe, unsubscribe and subscribe again and do all the things to make sure that our numbers are juiced. I mean, that we have legit numbers in our podcast listening numbers as well. And yeah, Shaun, thank you so much for this. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next podcast where we can actually discuss some test rugby that's actually about to happen.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks so much, my man.
Okay, cheers, everyone.